Dork back again, and boy, have I got a doozy for episode 13 of my Dorkcast today. I need my platform managed, and so what I did is I went out and I found myself a platform manager. His name is Jeroen Gerritsen, and he's the managing director at Platform Manager. Obviously, the place to go to find people to manage my platform, right, Jeroen?
Sort of. Actually, I'm not really a platform manager. It's the name of our product.
Oh
Um,
gosh, I totally blew that. No, I'm
yeah.
just I'm just teasing. For those of you following along, if you haven't already turned the video off, which I hope you haven't, Platform Manager is a software company and they have software to help you manage your own platform. They don't manage it for you. But when you see what they do, I think you're going to be blown away and it'll be just as if they're really doing the work for you. This is their website. If you want to go ahead and hit that while we're talking, I realize that sometimes you might be eating lunch, looking at emails on another screen. So if you've got a multi-monitor, go for it. Go ahead and check the product out while we're talking about it. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share, Jeroen, and talk to you just for a second. How long have you been with Platform Manager?
So actually, I'm one of the founders, Dalton. Together with JP, our senior architect at the moment, we founded the company back in 2013. Um, and we started with SAP Business Objects, which is not really our core business anymore at the moment. And then adding QlikView in 2014, QlikSense in 2015, and QlikCloud in 2022.
Nice. So you've been a long time partner. What did you do prior to starting Platform Manager?
Prior to that, I was actually working myself in several BI projects. And that's actually also when we got the idea of creating something to make it easier to collaborate with other developers, because we noticed that it's quite difficult to work together if you don't have something that keeps you from overriding each other's changes, and also you would like to have a way of recovering an app once you've published it to production and it seems there's an issue in there. So those kind of things that we experienced during the BI projects that we worked on ourselves. So we really got the experience from our own projects.
That's fantastic. And I like the way that you phrase that, collaborate with other developers, because sometimes we think of DevOps as just a sterile, this is just an IT driven process. This is really about developers being able to talk to the other developers, especially in an age where it's so decentralized. We're not all working in the same office. We don't go up and like put stuff on a whiteboard. I own this project right now, leave it alone, type thing anymore.
Yeah.
So that's great. And things like that can only be phrased by people who've been in the field and done it before. So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing what all it does. I understand you have a couple of slides prepared.
Yeah, that's right. I have a couple of slides to give you some overview of the benefits of the solution, and a little bit about migration, because we're focusing on Qlik Cloud right now. Okay, so
Hey,
but
we're
I'll
focusing on QlikCloud too. That's
yeah,
perfect.
that's a coincidence, right?
Go ahead and share your
So
screen for me, Jeroen.
okay, we'll do. So let me go back to the first slide.
Oh, that was a good teaser slide. I can see
Yeah.
I can see all the account managers at Qlik hanging on that phrase.
Okay. So yeah, let's give you an overview of what Platform Manager can basically do for not only for QlikSense Cloud, also for QlikSense on-premise, QlikView, and printing, and so on and so forth. So, but we're focusing really on Qlik Cloud today because that's a solution that we launched in January this year. We have about 5 customers currently using it, about 10 who are actually migrating to the cloud. And I think that's also a very important topic when you migrate from an on-premise environment to cloud. What are really the topics that you should be looking at? So these are some of the benefits for Qlik Cloud. I'd like to name a few out of them. So, for instance, if you accidentally delete the source app in Qlik Cloud, you still have Platform Manager to recover it, because Platform Manager stores all of the apps in version control. Especially during migration, you have better overview because all of the apps are available from Platform Manager, so you can manage your on-premise and your Qlik Cloud environment from a single implementation. And it doesn't matter if you're completely working in the cloud or if you're working in a hybrid environment. We support working with a single tenant, with multiple tenants. So a lot of things we can do during promotion. We can help you change your data connections. We can reload your application so that the end user will look at the app once it has been populated. So there's a lot of stuff in there that helps you to deliver a more complete application to your business user.
That's crazy cool. Can you elaborate a little bit on that change data connections during promotion?
Absolutely. So when we publish an app from, let's say, acceptance to production, we allow you to change the data connection. So we get the list of data connections which are available in the destination environment, right?
Okay.
And we show you all the data connections which are being used in the application, and then you can map those to the data connections that you want to use.
That is fantastic.
It's also something you have to do once only, right? So only the first time you publish an app, because Platform Manager will remember those settings, and every subsequent time you publish the same application, you can just say, okay, I want to use the auto promote, don't have to specify anything. Then just click go, and it will just do the same thing.
That's fantastic. Somebody had done that a whole lot of times manually and decided to weave that into the product. I can tell.
Yeah, exactly. That's the time saver. And also the reload is also an interesting mechanism, because what we do basically is when you check the reload option during promotion, we push the app to a temporary space in, let's say, production.
Okay.
There we actually execute the reload. And once the reload has been finished successfully, we publish the app directly to the business user. So the business user will never have an app without data.
That's fantastic. That's key, because sometimes you could forget you've backed up the application, you deploy it, you forget to go reload it.
Yeah. And especially if reloading takes like half an hour or an hour, you have all that time without data. So the business user is not able to use the application, right?
Yep, very cool.
So let's look briefly into a migration from on-prem to SaaS. How does that work? So if you have a solution like Platform Manager, we support all of these different environments in a single implementation. That means that you can have your on-prem environment and you can have your cloud environment within the same implementation. So you can, it supports a phase migration. So if you want to go from development on-prem to acceptance on-prem to production in the cloud, you can do that. So you can do it simultaneously. You can publish to production on-prem and production in the cloud. And once your cloud environment is completely up and running and has everything that you need to have, all your data is there and all your apps are there, you can stop publishing to your production on-prem environment and stop that server. And then again, move to acceptance, get your acceptance environment in the cloud, and finally, of course, get your development in the cloud as well, so that you have a full cloud approach.
This is really clutch, because obviously we have customers at every dot in that migration path, planning to be in the migration path, halfway through the migration path, and a lot of customers, I think, who've probably gotten started and could really have benefited from a tool like yours that would have helped make that more seamless transition through all those stops.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the teaser page, right? So what it looks like is, suppose you have an on-prem environment with Qlik Sense, having 4 different environments: development, staging, acceptance, and production. You want to start moving production to the cloud, so you can either use Qlik to synchronize the environment to production, or you can do it through Platform Manager and promote from acceptance on-prem to production in the cloud. And then, as I said, if production in the cloud is completely up and running and everything is available there and all the users are pointing to the production cloud environment, you can eliminate the production on-prem environment. And once this is working and you want to move to a full cloud solution, you can continue with acceptance, of course. Follow the same strategy, the same approach. And again, Platform Manager at all times allows you to see everything that happens in both environments, both on-prem and in the cloud. So you have insight in all the apps that live in those environments, the versions that live there, the changes that have been made to those environments, to those apps. So everything is completely synchronized by Platform Manager. And this could be the end goal, of course, of the customer, have everything in the clouds and nothing on-prem anymore.
Now, obviously, they could continue to operate with some things where there's some apps that they're going to keep on-prem while doing the rest of this for other apps that are acceptable to be in the cloud, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely, for us, it's completely transparent. If you want to work full cloud, want to work hybrid, or completely on-prem, yeah. Platform Manager doesn't know even.
Yeah, and if you're playing along at home, that's an awful lot of things to be worried about, right? Somebody has to know what's going on in all of those. You're either doing that on a scratch pad that's going to get your coffee spilled on it, or you're doing it in a tool like Platform Manager that you get a high level view of all of what's going on in one place so that you really can collaborate. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few more benefits of the migration. So things like bookmarks and stories are kept. You always have insight in the migrated apps, of course. Seamless deployment from on-prem to Qlik Cloud. And you can very easily support a phased migration, as I just showed. I mean, it doesn't matter what the time scale is, because we can support it as long as you want to have it.
One of the things that came up recently, I had a question from someone asking how could they make sure that their includes are kept, the QVS files, those script files that we all write to have subroutine 1, subroutine 2, subroutine 3. Do you guys do anything to manage those and move the include scripts along as well?
Actually, we do. So that's a very good question. So a Platform Manager doesn't only support the QlikSense files, but it also supports generic files. So you can import like QVS files, you can import Excel scripts, text files, documentation, whatever you like to do, and you can not only version those files, but you can also publish them to other servers.
Love it, love it. That is perfect.
So, are you ready to go into the solution?
I'm like shaking, ready to go into the solution.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start it up. So here we are. So what I've done now is I've basically let me just sign out. So to give you an overview of what happens if you sign in. So I'm signing in with my own username. It's a Windows AD user. And this brings me to the portal from where you can access the various modules that we have. So we've done it like this because
what operating systems does this server platform run on? Is it Windows only? Is it Linux and Windows?
No, it's Windows only.
Okay. And can it fit if I have a QlikSense client managed server? Can it fit on that server, or do you recommend it to be its own server environment?
We recommend to be its own server environment because it depends on how busy the QlikSense server is, of course. But
Sure.
it's not too busy, then you could actually install it on the QlikSense server. But what we see that sometimes the QlikSense servers are really very busy with analyzing all the data, of course. And
That's
then
their job.
we think it's their job, exactly. So then it's better to have a separate server. It doesn't have to be a physical server, it can be a virtual server, it can be in the cloud if you like. So yeah, there's a lot of options there to choose from. So I'm going into developments right now, and what you can see here is that I have two main folders. These folders, this is a setup for a demo, and this, if we would implement this as you as a customer, we could just get your structure into Platform Manager, structure from your Qlik Cloud environment or from QlikSense, and then that would be visible over here. So what I've done now is I've created an environment where we have cloud apps, basically. And we have another environment, which is over here, which is doing Qlik Sense on-prem. So we have
Okay.
those two combined within the same solution.
Right.
Right. Just to give you some more insight on the solution itself. The idea is that all of the apps that you have are brought into Platform Manager. That's a one-time thing. And we have a function to do that so that that can get all of your apps and streams and everything into Platform Manager at when you start with the project.
And when you say you bring those in, are you bringing those in without data, or are you bringing in with data?
It's up to you. You can choose. Of course, if you have a very big apps, then we would advise you to bring it in without data.
Okay.
Some of our customers are not even allowed to store data in external systems like Platform
Right.
Manager, so they always want to purge. And we allow you to purge the data, right? So when you bring the files into Platform Manager, we allow you to either let the developer choose to remove the data from the app, or you can say, no, the administrator determines that it always has to be purged. So we define
Always.
that at
Okay.
admin level, and it's no longer up to the developer. So it's always purged.
Good idea.
So if we just take a single application like this, for instance, or maybe this one, car sales worldwide, that's an application that we have, and we have a lot of information about those applications, right? So we can see where the app has been published to.
Wow.
We can see the individual versions. In this case, they all have the same version, but what's normal, mostly normal, that development is a little bit before on production. Production is a little bit behind because they have an older version. Of course, because in development, you're developing new versions and then you're publishing them through acceptance to production.
Okay.
You can have whatever environment setup that you want to have, right? If you want to go from development directly into production, we don't advise you that, but that's something you can do as well.
And I see you have a state of approved. Does that mean that you have kind of a user interface that I can be deemed as the QA person, or is it I'm the data steward and I get to sign
Absolutely.
off somehow in a workflow?
Yeah. So if we would briefly go to acceptance, look at this application, then there is a checklist in here. Let me just pick another example because this one's already approved, so I can't change it anymore. But there's a checklist, and you can decide what tasks should be on the checklist, right? So I would assume that before you move anything to production, you want to make sure that it will be working in production. So you want to make sure that the QVD files are available, that your database is updated with the latest changes, that you have all the extensions in place, that maybe you also want to include the business user in the final test before it's actually moved to production. So Platform Manager, being an application lifecycle management solution, allows you to create a checklist, create multiple checklists, and during the promotion, you can decide what checklist you want to use for that application.
And so if we had a center of excellence and we had a list of 8 things, we could customize that list to our 8 things that we've defined as the center of excellence within our organization.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool.
And you can even decide who is allowed to actually approve something. Like in this case, the final approval, of course, I'm not allowed to approve that step because I'm not the business user, right?
Right. Okay.
So somebody else has to do that. Like with database changes, maybe the DBA should take care of that.
Very cool. Okay.
So let's jump back to development. The next icon is, well, we also have things like internal relations. These are things like, for instance, you could have reload tasks, right? So reload tasks would take care of reloading the app in a specific schedule. Platform Manager can manage those as well, so that you can.
That is crazy that you guys thought of that.
Yeah, because we thought, wouldn't it be awesome if you could develop the schedule of the reload task in development, and then see if that's working, and then move it across to production before doing everything in production instead.
Wow. Yeah, because I could certainly see how organizations would manually copy a file if they're doing this by hand and forget about the scheduling aspect of it, and the app's sitting there with data from 3 months ago. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the next icon is showing us the relations, so the data connections. Let me pick another application which would be more interesting, because we
Okay.
also have a different view, and I know that lineage, of course, is part now of Qlik as well. But we also have
What?
sort of a lineage, right? So where you can see the
Wow.
dependencies. So we have selected this application.
Okay.
It's showing me now that I'm using a QED file and a QVX file in this application. And I can
Yep.
also see where these files originate from, right? So we can see the QED creator here. We can also see that there are like Excel files and text files being used by this cards application.
Okay.
And what I can do from here is I can basically click on any of these boxes to see the lineage for that specific application. So
Wow.
I could even go to like an Excel sheet to see where that's being used. So yeah, could be very useful information. We have a customer who's really very much into this, because before they were keeping track of the lineage in Excel files
Yep.
manually, but that took them so much time that this is really a big time saver for them.
Yeah, yeah. So you're showing the lineage backwards, but you're also showing the impact analysis. Got to have both for sure.
Yeah. And let's see, the next icon is showing all the different versions. So from here, you also have the ability to do a lot of nice things. So for instance, if as a developer you made a mistake, you wanted to revert to the previous version, you can just select like the previous version and then
Okay.
use the
Do a
restore
restore.
function
All right.
to get that version back and use that as a starting point for all new development.
Wow.
Then we also have some reports, like I could run a difference analysis report. I could even do an external compare. So if you want to compare like Excel sheets or text files, we can also do that. And
Oh, that is really cool. Because
yeah,
I could imagine that it could be the include scripts that ends up setting variables to something different that may be causing the problem, not the load
yeah,
script code itself.
exactly. Yeah. And what we also have is what also is very interesting from an application lifecycle management perspective is that we have a lifecycle report, and this is very much loved by auditors. What you see here is everything that happened to an application, right? So this one was imported actually yesterday. As you can see, was imported. The next thing that we do is we extract all the metadata from the app, and that's stored in our metadata repository. Then an edit was done, an undo checkout, assigned version, promote from development to acceptance, promote from acceptance to production. So everything that happens to the app is visible from this report actually. And there's also some additional information like comments which are here, which are also accessible in a different way. And you could even have a Qlik Sense application reporting on the metadata. So showing you everything that happened to an app, or showing you all of the apps that have been approved by a specific person, and so on and so forth.
Okay. And I see you've got the words there. Hey, go back there for me 1 second.
Yeah.
I think this is key. I think I was asked a lot of questions at Gartner this year, I know, on compliance for knowing, tell me who changed that chart to something different. And so
Yeah.
you guys can provide that. But I also see here the words check in, check out, undo checkout. Do you
Yeah.
provide an actual like an interface that would let me lock an app and say I own that, so Bob shouldn't be able to go in and edit it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
So if I go back here, so we're now in the cloud environment, right? So
Yep.
what I can do if I want to change this application and I want to prevent other users from doing that, I could say, okay, let me just lock this application. I'm going to implement a change request. And then it's locked. You can see that it has a lock here now. My name is attached to it. So you will not be able to do anything with the file.
If I come through the interface, does that do anything actually to the QlikSense environment if the developers are just using the hub and they don't use the platform?
No, that's not the case. So you can still,
Okay.
if but the thing is, this file is not in your Qlik Sense environment, and that's a real difference from what you currently have, right? Because now, if you go to your personal space or your shared space where you do your development, you have all the apps which have been published to manage spaces in that area, but not
Okay.
with Platform Manager. So if I would go to
So you're kind of
to
managing
my
it that
person,
way.
I'm sorry, didn't get your question.
You're managing it that way. That QVF then goes to my personal space. So Bob's not even seeing it if he was in the hub.
No, exactly.
That's crazy cool. Okay.
So people actually cannot change it through the hub because the app is just not there.
It's in my personal space.
No.
That's a neat interface. I wondered how that could be maintained. That's very cool.
So what I could do now is basically I have this app. Let me just start with importing an app from cloud, right? We are in the cloud. I have prepared an app which is called Car Rentals.
Okay.
So let me just import that app into Platform Manager if that's okay with you.
I'll be happy to see
So
that.
I use the import function, and from the import function, you can select between all of the connections that are defined in Platform Manager. So we can also import from Qlik Sense on-premise, from the production environment, UAT, development, or from our Qlik cloud environment. I currently have one tenant configured here.
Okay.
So I selected the cloud environment, and from here, I'm going to select my personal space. And here we see the car rentals app that we see over here as well, right? So I'm going to import that, add it to the wizard. Can specify a comment here, like a demo for Dalton.
Woohoo! I made it into a demo.
And it's you can purge the data from here. Again, this is defined in a way that the developer is allowing to remove the data, right?
Okay.
So that's all you need to do. And what happens now is that the file is retrieved from my private workspace, from private space. It's put into version control and platform manager. That's the first step. And the second step is that the metadata will be extracted from the app as well.
Okay. Yep.
So we see it now over here. So we can see the app, we can see the data connections, the load statements, and the store statements from the app. So the lineage of information is available as well.
Wow.
And of course, it's just one version, right? So
Yep.
so now it's in my development environment, also in development in Qlik Cloud. Let me just sign in again in Qlik Cloud. Okay, this happens sometimes. So,
Well, you're not the only one. That happens to me.
yeah, it does.
Like, let me sign in.
So you can see now that the app is removed from my personal space, right? It's no longer there.
Yep.
So I can't change it until I do an edit from Platform Manager. And then it's again put in my personal space or in the shared space from choice, whatever you like to do. If you're want to collaborate with other developers, you can do that as well. Now, if we're looking at I'm going to filter on the acceptance projects space, which is the location where I'm going to publish this app to, right? Because eventually you want to have the app in your production environment. So what I'm going to do now is I want to publish the app, which is called Promote in Platform Manager. But as you can see, the function is grayed out because I have to assign a version number first.
Okay.
So let me assign that version number. You can generate that using these buttons. So let's make this a major version. And now you can see the version number is attached now here, 101, and I can now publish it to the acceptance environment in cloud. All right, I'm selecting the right location.
Okay.
This is something you have to do once only for an app, right? So selecting the location, selecting a checklist. So that is the checklist, the workflow that you will want to use in acceptance. We have two defined for Qlik Cloud. So this is for non-critical apps. You have to test them, right? and the critical apps also need to be checked and if the data connections are correct. So those are the two checklists that we
Oh,
have.
cool. Okay.
But of course, you can define as many as you like. And this is what we talked about before. This is a simple app which only has one data connection. So you
Wow.
see that on the left side,
Yep.
and it hasn't been mapped before. So what happens now is that I click this this arrow, and a list of data connections from the acceptance Qlik Cloud server appears, and I can select the one that I want to use. Right. So I'm going to use this one, and I can say I want to reload the app. So that means that it's going to be published to a temporary stream, a temporary space. There will be reloaded, and when it's done and its reload was successful, then it will be replacing the version that is actually in the Qlik Cloud environment.
That's brilliant.
And you can also schedule this, of course. You don't have to run it immediately. You can schedule it to run overnight or during the weekend or whenever you like.
Wow.
So that's currently running. So it's copying the app from version control. It's pushing it to the Qlik Cloud acceptance environment,
Okay.
and now it's done. So what we can see now is that it's not only available in development, but it's also available in acceptance,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
So if I would go to Qlik Cloud, I should see something over here. And there we can see the new car rentals app, right? The one that we
Wow.
just published. So the next step will be, again, what we just did, go to the acceptance environment. So I'm now in acceptance, no longer in development. So I can't change the app here. But what I can do is I can view it. That means I view it inside Qlik Cloud. I can work my way through the checklist, of course. So it means checking if the data connection has been checked or created. And if I tested it, let's assume I did, then the state of the app changes to approved. And you have to approve the app before you can move it to production. So if anything is wrong with this, if the data connections are not available, they haven't been created, I can say reject this. And then the app is never going to go into production, right?
Okay.
So this enables you to have a mechanism which will prevent you from, well, actually, it forces you also to test a little bit more in acceptance, maybe.
Yep.
And your name is assigned to this task, right? So you want to make sure that it's working as expected. So I'm approving it right now. And the next thing is that I can publish it to production, which will go the same way as publishing it to acceptance, right?
Okay.
So that's basically a flow if you're working completely in Qlik Cloud. If I would do a promotion again of a new version of the app, I can use the auto promote function. I don't have to specify anything else. I can just click next, and then it will be promoted with the same settings that I used before.
Okay. Very cool.
Now, what we also notice is that, of course, some customers are using a hybrid model where they are developing and in QlikSense on-premise, maybe acceptance as well, and having production in the cloud. So then that is also possible. If you go here, this is my QlikSense on-premise environment. And I can pick any application, basically. I've done a demo yesterday. I think I used this Car Sales Europe application. Yeah. So what I did yesterday is this application is normally used from Europe projects in my on-premise environment, but I also published it to the cloud, to acceptance and production, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look in production, you can see that the car sales is here, car sales Europe, and that was not in my development environment in the cloud, right? So this is coming from the QlikSense on-premise environment,
Wow.
and the same goes for production. So I can basically go there, and then you can see in acceptance that there is a file which is not in development in Qlik Cloud because it comes from a QlikSense on-premise development environment.
Yep.
That's another way, another scenario which we can support completely from Platform Manager, where at all times you have oversight, you have overview, you can see which version is living where, and so on and so forth.
That is crazy.
And of course, what also could be interesting, Dalton, is that when you are migrating and you want to go for a big bang, right? You have maybe not thousands of apps, but you have a smaller environment. You want to move over to the cloud, starting with everything. So development, acceptance, and production in the cloud. So then what you can do then is you can just simply you can use the mass import function, right? Where you can get the entire environment from QlikSense on-premise into Platform Manager. But you can also do it from an individual approach. So in here, for instance, I could say I will want to import something from my QlikSense development environments. So here I look at the project stream. So this is my project stream, right, in QlikSense. And I'm going to import, for instance, the car sales US application. Again, I can specify comments. I don't want to purge the data. So then what happens is that the file is retrieved from QlikSense, it's put into version control, and it's synchronized to the Qlik Cloud environment in development as well.
Wow.
So there we have it. And now we
Yep.
can start working on it in the cloud and move it again to acceptance and production in the cloud.
Now I see on the left there, we've been looking at the apps. I see you've got a holder for extensions, mashups, and widgets.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
go
right.
out, recognize those things and then actually push those out? Do you recognize dependencies between car sales? Do you recognize that it uses 4 extensions?
Yeah. Yeah. So that is something that we can do as well. So let me see if we can find an app over here that is using extensions.
Yeah.
Here we have an app that's using 2 extensions, right? And this works both ways. So if I would go to the extensions and I check that option, then it also shows the apps that are using the extension. Right?
What?
So you know that whenever you have a new version of the extension, maybe you're using Vislib or other providers, then whenever you get a new version, you may want to check 1 or 2 apps if they are still working correctly. But then you need to know, of course, which apps are using the extension. So that's information we have available as well.
That is crazy cool.
Yeah.
That's, believe it or not, Jeroen, once or twice, maybe 3 times if I'm being honest, I have moved applications and forgotten to move the extensions. I know. Hard to believe, I know, but I've made that mistake once or twice, maybe 3 times if I were being honest.
I'm sure you're not the only one. So there's another thing that I didn't mention yet, but when we publish an application to another environment, we even check if the extensions are available in the destination, right? So if it's not, so if you have removed it or whatever, then we will just give you a warning message and say that you first have to publish the extension before you actually publish the application. So
Very cool. Very cool.
then also we have support for mashups. So if you're using apps in mashups, then you can also see which apps are used in a mashup. So that might also be useful, especially if you want to, again, promote those to other environments, then you would like to see which apps need to be available there as well.
And now let me guess. If I promote a mashup, is it going to prompt me for the right app IDs?
It's
Or is it,
automatically going to change them for you.
oh
So you
my
can prompt.
gosh, it's just, come on, man. You're making this too easy. I love this.
Yeah,
I love
that's what it
this.
is. Yeah. Um, so yeah, a few more things which might interest you as well is that if you're what we've done now is actually we've moved an individual app across to acceptance, right? But what we see with many customers that they actually have the need to group different items together
Mm-hmm.
because there are dependencies between those items. You must have seen that before, right? So you have apps which create QBD files, you change the QBD structure, you have apps
Yep.
that consume the QBD files, and you want those to stick together because if you would restore one of those apps, you might have an inconsistency in your production environment, right?
Sure.
So what you can do in those cases, you can just select a few apps and then say to the platform manager, okay, I want these ones to stick together. So just create a release out of those apps.
Wow.
And what it does then, it selects those apps that you've selected, but it also includes the dependencies. Like this could be QlikView or QlikSense apps, which create QVD files that you're using in these apps. It could be different data sources, could be QVS files because you have the script externally, of course. And then you just give it a name and you can do a lot of stuff on the release. So you can publish the release, you can put a tag on it, you can renew it, you can make new versions out of that. So there's a lot of stuff going on there as well. And it's mainly meant, of course, as a promotion mechanism, right? So it's not so much for developers, but more like, okay, how do I bring my project into production the right way so that we have all the components together. And if there's anything wrong with one of the apps, that we can restore the entire release to its previous version.
That would be, dude, I can't tell you how much that would have helped. Over the last year and a half, I've been working with a colleague, David Frericks, and we have what we call SAP accelerators. And there's 3 levels where we raw extract out of SAP, and then we just write raw QVD so that we can handle merges and incremental loads. And then we have a, kind of a denormalization layer where we start joining some, multi-field keys and, aliasing some fields to get into a Qlik sense model. And then we have the app. So many times I've changed one or the other or the other, and things got out of whack. That's incredible that you've got the ability to make those 3 related, so that if I were to change the raw extract QVD, I also got to deal with the other 2 apps as well, and vice versa. I can't just release a brand new front end app and then forget about the 2 layers that are underneath. So I'm sure there's an awful lot of people out there who believe in the layering approach to the QVD layers, and that is going to blow them away. That is, you guys have thought of everything. You must actually have customers using this, huh?
Absolutely. We have over 200 customers using this worldwide. So
Fantastic. One of the things I saw on the splash page that I shared, 527 million application deployments.
yeah.
That's 1 or 2 more than I've deployed in my career.
You have? Okay.
Sure. So let's stop sharing your screen and just talk for a second here, if you can.
Yeah.
That way we'll both be on video. If customers are out there, prospects are out there, consultants are out there, partners are out there saying, man, I really want to get a hold of this. What do they do to get started?
Yeah, so there are various options. So they can contact me or my colleagues, of course, for a discovery call. So normally we discuss the situation of the customer because we want to make sure that we can actually give them a solution that works the best way for them. So discovery call could be a demo. Then after that, if they want to get the hang of it, to really feel how it works, we can offer them a free trial. So for 3 days, we'll give them access to one of our AWS servers to start experiencing how it works.
Wow, so
We will
you
give
even
them,
provide the server for them.
yeah,
That's
absolutely,
fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah, we also give them some test cases to run through so that they get to feel the entire product from all the features that will be interesting for them as well. So yeah, that's normally the process that we go through. So some of the customers say, okay, I don't need a free trial because I mean I've seen the product, I trust that it's working because you have a lot of good references. So we want to go for that. Yeah, feel free to try it. You can try it yourself if you like.
That's cool. So let's say I do the trial and I was like, man, I just want to hand you my credit card and get going. It's Windows-based software, so I imagine you've got a pretty easy download process, install it up and running, pretty thorough online help for it.
Yeah, and we have documentation for you to help with that. We can also help you ourselves because the main thing is it's not installing, right? Installing is simple, but we have some business cases, some best practices that we want you to benefit from. So we like to help you with that, so we can configure your Qlik Cloud, Qlik Send servers, and then help you get started, getting some of the apps in, going all the way through production, help you to get the right workflows in, and give you some training as well. So that's normally how we go about.
How complex are the security mechanisms for what needs to be configured for me to do the things you let me do?
Yeah, so it's not very complex. So we have a role-based security model, and we've already predefined the most common roles that are available, right? Like a developer, a
Okay.
promotion user, so someone who publishes apps to production, administrators. So those are pre-configured, so you can use them as they are, or you can change the security profile, and amend it to change some of the rules, or create your own profile if you like.
That's crazy cool. Now let's say I hand you my credit card, we're getting started, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got 18 other priorities. Do you have consultants or partners that work with you that I can consult on? Hey, I'll just hand somebody a credit card to manage my environment, help this get stood up the right way, build everything out, and keep my developers on the straight and narrow as they learn the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can help you with that. And we have over 40 partners at the moment who can help you as well. And that the benefit of having a partner, of course, is that they are probably in the same area as you are, the same time zone. They know you already as a customer, so that might even be a better solution to have a partner do the implementation for you.
That's fantastic, because what I noticed that it was all very familiar to me. I've worked in startup companies, building shrink wrap software, and we had very rigid check in, check out,
Yeah,
policies that had to be in place. So that was all familiar to me. But I would imagine for a lot, it's kind of new because decentralized development is kind of the wild west of development.
yeah,
If I'm allowed to develop and I'm allowed to develop on a production server, why then I could just do whatever I wanted to do.
exactly.
And so that is a little bit scary, that idea of decentralized development. I really love how this adds a little bit of governance and structure to that model, right? We want decentralized development. I want Dalton to be able to do things. I want him to add value to apps, but we need a little bit of control so Dalton isn't just hand editing something that's already in a published stream,
Yeah,
or
exactly. Yeah.
a managed space. I don't want Dalton just pushing stuff out there because Dalton feels like he wants to. So I love your ability to add that. If you're going to say one more thing to people who've been watching and still aren't convinced that they should drop everything they're doing the rest of the day, what would it be?
Yeah. Well, of course, there's a lot of other stuff that I haven't been able to show you. It's like things like the metadata. I don't know. Have you ever wondered where a specific QBD is? So you know that you have a QBD that is being used. It's important, but you have no clue which apps are using that QBD. Have you ever
That
had that situation?
I think of that all the time, but yes, I run into that situation all the time.
Yeah.
I see a stray QVD sitting in here in a space. It's like, no, we don't need that one there.
Yeah. Throw it away, and then suddenly, yeah.
Things
So
start
what you can
failing a
also
week
do,
later.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So we allow you to search across the metadata, right? So for every app, we have the metadata stored in Platform Manager, and we allow you to search across the metadata. So if you have an QBD and you don't know where it's being used, just type in the QBD name in the global search, and all of the apps which are using or creating the QBD will pop up, and you can see that. You can see how it's being used, and it gives you insight. You can just navigate to the app and do whatever you like to do with the QBD file. So.
That is crazy cool. That is another really cool feature, because we kind of did it all drilling down. That's a great thing to mention. Jeroen, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to join me for Dorkcast 13. And after all the great information you've shared, people are now going to start thinking of 13 as a lucky number, not an unlucky number. So that's great. If you're looking for more information, platformmanager.com is the place to go. I think you guys have online, probably online videos that they can see. And then, like you said, reach out and ask for help. They're going to make the process seamless for you in getting started. Hope you have a great evening. I still have an awful lot more work today, but I think you probably get to go enjoy some dinner here shortly. So
absolutely.
have a great day.
Thank you
Hope the
very
rest
much.
of you enjoy your day as well.